It is an honor to welcome Congressman Anthony Brindisi to the program. Good morning.
Good morning, Bob. How are you?
I'm fine. So how are things going at the Capitol? I take it you're still at the Capitol. You didn't say, wow, I've seen enough and I'm heading
right?
back to Oneida County.
No, I'm still here. I'm in my office. We just finished up some votes for the day and just going to do some work in the office for the afternoon.
All right. Well, one of the first things that you did, and of course, people had known one part of this about the vote for the House leadership post, the vote for Speaker. We knew that you were not going to vote in favor of Nancy Pelosi, but one thing we didn't know till yesterday afternoon was who you actually would cast your vote for.
Right. Well, it was a decision that I really didn't make until the morning of. I had a few names that I was going to call out. My hope was all along in this process that there would be someone else, another member of Congress, who would step up and challenge Nancy Pelosi for the role of Speaker. Unfortunately, that did not happen. So, little known fact, the Speaker of the House of Representatives does not have to be a member of Congress. So you can name anyone you want. Historically, some members have named John Lewis, the great civil rights leader. Others have named Colin Powell. It really depends on who you want to name. You could also vote present and not name any name, or you could vote for the caucus's chosen leader, which in this case it was Nancy Pelosi.
So you chose to vote for former Vice President Joe Biden. Before you actually announced that, who else knew? I assume your wife knew who you were going to vote for.
My wife knew, and my two children who were sitting next to me on the floor knew. That's about it.
Yeah, that's one way to keep it from leaking out.
Right.
Although even then, with three people knowing, and probably I don't know about your children if they have cell phones yet, but you never know. I mean that could have been dicey with one of the kids texting a reporter what they have just learned exclusively that their dad is going to do. That would have been an interesting scoop.
Yeah, and my son did get his picture prominently displayed in the New York Daily News this morning. So you never know. He may have some press connections I don't know about.
Has he seen his picture in the actual newspaper?
I haven't even shown him yet. No, he's actually sitting here next to me.
How old is he? 11?
He's 11 years old.
Yeah, and your daughter is 8?
She's 8 years old.
Yeah. I saw some of the images of them yesterday, and it certainly from what I could see, it looked like they were enjoying themselves and appreciating what was going on. Do you think they have a pretty good appreciation, even though they're young, what is happening with their dad since the November election?
I do. I think they have a good appreciation. They really were aware during the campaign of a lot of the issues that were happening in the campaign. They asked a lot of questions. They were excited to be there. It was a long day on the floor, especially for children, but they sat there pretty good. I only had to buy a couple bags of M&Ms in the cloakroom for them, but they sat there pretty good and took it all in, and it was a great day for them, for me, for Erica, my wife, and we were excited to be there.
Speaking with Congressman Anthony Brindisi, who is spending his first full day on the job, one of the issues that certainly you and about everybody in Washington and a lot of Americans will continue to hope will be resolved quickly is taking care of this ongoing partial shutdown of the federal government. We know a meeting is coming up today with congressional leaders and the president. Do you have a sense that there's any hope for things to be resolved quickly?
Boy, I hope so. You hope cooler heads can prevail here because it's not good to be in a shutdown like this. We passed a series of bills yesterday and today to get the government up and running. It's the same legislation that passed with overwhelming bipartisan support a few weeks ago in the Senate. Hopefully this can help move the process forward. I think the president has indicated he's not going to sign them. But we have serious debates that we have to have in this country about border security, about health care, about a whole host of issues. But it's very hard to have those discussions while there's a shutdown going on, and it's really not fair to the American people. It's not good for our economy. It's not good for federal workers, 800,000 federal workers who are at risk of losing their paychecks. You have, DEA agents, you have border agents, customs officers, FBI that could go without paychecks, and we've kind of have weathered the storm a little bit here through the holidays. But next week things really get real as people start to rely on some of these services and find out they're not available.
Well, speaking of paychecks, some people have wondered how many members of Congress might be willing, for the duration of this partial government shutdown, to give up their pay until things get back in operation. What is your perspective on this? Are you in a position where you would be willing to give up your salary until the federal government is back to operating at 100%?
Yeah, I would definitely be willing to withhold my salary until the government's up and running.
Withhold it for and then get paid after it's running, or actually forgo pay, say if the government is not operating again for a week or 2 weeks or whatever, would you actually forgo the pay for that period of time?
I guess I have to make a decision and see how it goes. I'm going to withhold it for the time period, and hopefully we can get things up and running in the near future so everyone can get paid. But certainly we got to get things moving here so we can get government up and running.
Have you heard any serious discussion among any of your new colleagues about that issue? I know it's been reported in various venues about what some members of Congress will possibly do. I know another member of the freshman class, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, apparently didn't want to answer the question directly when she was asked yesterday. I guess according to the New York Post, she said, "I've got to run," and didn't answer the question directly. Are lawmakers giving this any sort of serious discussion, or not really at this point?
Well, it's something that's being discussed by some lawmakers. I'm sure as things start to move into next week and federal workers aren't receiving their paychecks, there's going to be a lot more scrutiny on that issue. But for right now, I think the focus has been on trying to get these bills passed, get the government up and running, and then let's start having some conversations about some serious issues. We all campaigned on very serious issues. I heard from voters across the 22nd District about immigration and health care and the economy, and those are the things that I want to get to work on right away. It's hard to do that when you're operating in this kind of an atmosphere where there's a shutdown and leaders aren't coming to any compromise.
With a meeting that is, I believe, taking place today with congressional leaders and the president, that would seem to suggest there might be reason for a bit of hope. The other thing that I observed that might be potentially good is this meeting is not going to be open to the media, unlike that one televised exchange that we all remember from a few weeks ago with
Right.
Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi and President Trump. It seemed it was entertaining from a radio and TV standpoint, but I think everybody would agree not much of substance was accomplished.
No, nothing was accomplished. I think it's very positive that they're talking. I think that's the one good thing that's coming out of the situation is there is talking going on, and hopefully we can come to some kind of an agreement here on how to get the government up and running again. But I'm glad it's not going to be televised because, as we spoke before on the phone after that meeting, if the cameras are there, I think you're going to see a different set of personalities from the folks in the room as opposed to the cameras not being there. Everyone's going to play to their base at a time when we need to be coming towards the middle and compromising on some of these issues.
Speaking with Congressman Anthony Brindisi, another new member of Congress, had a pretty blunt declaration that was captured on video last night. She said to some supporters that we're going to go in there and impeach the well, you probably are aware of what I'm referencing.
I just heard about it this morning.
Yeah. Well, what was your reaction to what Rashida Tlaib had to say?
It's just not helpful. Really, this kind of talk right now is I can't speak for other members or other parts of the country. All I can speak for is what I heard on the campaign trail from the voters in upstate New York, and that issue rarely came up at town hall meetings. What did come up is, I'm struggling to pay for prescription drugs and put meals on my table. My child is worried about losing their health insurance. How am I going to find a job? I'm working 2 and 3 jobs. I haven't seen any benefit from a tax cut, and I'm struggling to pay bills. Those are the kind of things that people, at least in our area, are struggling with. I can't speak for other members' districts. And they asked me, and they begged me to go to Washington and really work on those kinds of issues, not to get bogged down in impeachment talk, not to get bogged down in investigations. There are investigations; those should play out. I support that, but we have to get work done here. That's why people elected us to come to Washington. And it's why people have such a low favorability of Congress, because the election ends and then the campaigning begins again instead of the governing. The governing has to begin. That's what I'm here to do, and I want to start working on these issues right away, not get bogged down in a lot of impeachment talk that's not going to move the country forward.
So the new Congresswoman, a Democrat from Michigan, apparently hasn't been interviewed to elaborate on her blunt statement, we're going to impeach the bleeper, but evidently on Twitter she sort of doubled down on that today and said that essentially Mr. Trump's presidency represents a constitutional crisis. Do you think we're at the point of facing a constitutional crisis in the United States?
No, we're this is why we are the greatest country in the world, because we have come through situations of division like this before, and we have thrived. We'll continue to do that. The country is up and running. We have a new Congress here. I want to work together with members on both sides of the aisle. Let's get things done. Let's work on some of these issues. We have disagreements. That's fair. They're well publicized, but the majority of the American people, I believe, are somewhere in the middle and feel that Republicans have good ideas, Democrats have good ideas. Let's try and figure out where we can find some common ground and actually pass some legislation that's going to help people in places like upstate New York. If we're going to govern by Twitter and social media, that's exactly what the base is. The extremes on both sides want, but it's not. It may drive emotions, but it doesn't move the country forward.
Are you going to be communicating with your constituents frequently using Twitter?
Well, that's the nature of the beast these days. You do have to be on social media, and we've had a very active presence. I've always had an active presence on social media during my time in the state assembly, and I'll continue to do that during my time as a representative in the House here. But my belief is it's really more of a platform to inform voters of what you're working on, information that you're doing in Washington, notifying them of upcoming meetings, town halls, things like that, giving them reasons why you voted a certain way on a particular piece of legislation. It's a form of communication, and we're in this era where it's going to be there for the rest of time, and you have to adapt to it. But we'll be on social media, and I probably won't be making as much national attention as some of the other members of Congress.
Will you be tweeting a lot late at night or early in the morning or on weekends, or responding to things you see on TV shows?
I have no rule of tweeting after midnight.
All right. And before what time in the morning?
Well, I'm an early riser, so I give it a 6 a.m. start.
Yeah. Will any of the tweets on your account, the A. Brindisi NY account, will any of them actually be written by you, or will they be written by staffers?
No, we're going to have up and running today our official House of Representatives Twitter account and Facebook pages. So that will, I'm sure, be managed through a combination of myself and our communications director. I've historically always done the A. Brindisi Twitter handle, but I don't want to spend my whole day on social media, and I'm sure the folks that are working in our office don't want me on social media all day, because we have a lot more important issues to work on than what the next tweet is going to be.
You touched on future town hall meetings. Any anticipation of how soon there might be a town hall style meeting in the Binghamton area?
Yeah, we're actually trying to schedule one. We're looking at January to schedule one in Broome County. We'll get those details out very soon. But like I said during the campaign, I want to hold at least one town hall meeting in every county, all 8 counties in the Congressional District every year. We're going to try and do more than that, in fact. So the first one is slated for Broome County, and we're trying to get it sometime in January.
And I stopped by the district's office, the Binghamton office that had been used by Congresswoman Claudia Tenney for the last couple of years, and your people were in there yesterday getting situated, waiting for things like computers and phones to be hooked up, but the Binghamton office is in the same location as where Congresswoman Tenney's office had been at the Metro Center.
Yeah, same location. We have our district director, Sarah, spending some time getting the folks in the Binghamton office trained on some of the federal issues and the different agencies that we have to work with to answer constituent concerns. So if people have questions, they feel free to stop by. We're there to serve the people, and we're going to have a very active presence in the community.
Since you've been sworn in yesterday afternoon as the 22nd District Congressman from New York, has there been anything that has surprised you?
Anything that surprised me? I can't say there's been any big surprises. It was you definitely get a sense of the history and what you're a part of as you're sitting there on the floor, getting ready to be sworn in, and it was just very inspiring to be there with the other new members, to see some of the members that have served there for a long time, and to know some of the people that have walked through those halls is very inspiring. It's a great honor that the people in the 22nd District have given me, and I take it very seriously, and I'm going to work 110% on behalf of the people in upstate New York to make sure their interests are represented down here in Washington. And
so now that you're a member of Congress, has the reality actually set in?
It's slowly setting in. The challenge is trying to get all the offices up and running, making sure we have all our staff in place. Challenge for me is trying to learn my way around the Capitol and the different hallways and underground tunnels that there are between the various office buildings. So it'll be a learning curve, but it's a challenge I'm up for.
Congressman Anthony Brindisi, thanks for joining us. We'll look forward to speaking with you sometimes by phone from Washington and hopefully occasionally here in the studio in Binghamton.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Bob.
I wish you and your family the best.
Thank you. Happy New Year.